Begin the Gemara today at the top of Daf Lamed Ches Amud Aleph, 4 lines from the top of the Yamid, where it says Amalei Rava. So this is actually in the middle of a discussion here in the Gemara, where it brings up the subject regarding a person that is a Chayiv Misa. And we learned that from Psukim before, that a person that's Chayiv Misa, there's one pasuk the Gemara brought, Lo yisikchu kofer lenefesh etzeach. Person that's a murderer, you cannot take from him any payment to pater him from the Chayiv Misa. It's one pasuk. Then there was a second pasuk that seems to be saying the same thing. Another pasuk says, Kol cheirem asher yachram min ha'adam lo yipada. Person that's Chayiv Misa, he cannot redeem himself with money. So the question the Gemara is discussing is, why do we need these two psukim? So the answer the Gemara came to is that it's referring to two different cases. There's one case where a person kills someone in a oifen that b'sheigig he would be chayiv galus, and there's another oifen that he kills someone that b'sheigig he would be potter from galus. So the Gemara says if you chayiv galus b'sheigig, so that shows that it's a more lenient thing that he did because he has a kapara b'sheigig. And if he's potter from galus b'sheigig, so then that's more severe because he doesn't even get a kapara for that. So therefore, we would think that maybe when it comes to this idea of allowing himself to redeem himself with money, there would be a distinction in these two cases. So therefore, we have two psukim to say that in either case, whether it was derech aliyah or derech yiride, those are the two scenarios regarding galus. If you're chayev or potter, either way, you're going to be chayev misa when it was done b'mezid, and you cannot redeem yourself with money. Those are the two psukim. So the Gemara is going to ask on this, that we don't need two psukim to teach us this, and the Gemara is going to discuss this matter, and it's going to bring a few different shatim, what we do with these two psukim. Amalei Rava, so Rava says to this, for this answer, and we can't answer this way. This idea that we do not make a distinction in how he murdered someone, whether it was an upward motion or downward motion, and which that's the case when there's a difference whether he's chayiv in galus or potter from galus, there's no difference. We learned this out from a different place already. Chizkiah said this, and we had this before. The Tana de Chizkiah said, when the Torah tells us, Make Adam or Make Beheme, if you go and damage, or actually if you go and hurt someone, you kill someone, and then it says Make Beheme, you go and damage someone's animal. Why is the Torah saying it together? We compare the two. Make Beheme, just like when you damage someone's animal, we do not make a distinction whether it was done accidentally or it was done b'mezid, with purposely. No difference. Bein miskaven l'she'ei miskaven. Whether it was done with kavana to kill or to damage this animal or something else, bein derech yiride l'derech aliyah, or if it was done with a downward motion, with an upward motion, l'poitroi mammon. So there's no way that in any of these cases you would say that he's exempt from paying. He's equally chayiv to pay in all these cases. Af maka adam, the same is also when you go and you kill somebody, there's no distinction, ben sheigig, lemezid, ben miskaven, l'she'ei miskaven, whether it was b'sheigig or b'mezid, or with kavana, without kavana, ben derech yirida, l'derech aliyah, upward or downward motion, l'chayvay mama, and that in any of these cases, you would say that he should have to pay, ela l'paitre mammon. In all of these cases, once he's chayiv misa, he's going to be pater from paying. Why? Because of kamlei b'derabim mineh. Right, so here, Chizkiah is learning out from this pasuk that the concept of kamle b'derabim mineh applies in any case that you did something that there's a chiyav misa, including even a sheigig where there's no actual chiyav misa. But the main thing that's relevant for us is the fact that Chizkiah mentions that there's no distinction between derech aliyah and derech yirida. That in both of these cases, the concept of kamle b'derabim mineh applies. So just like Chizkiah is learning out from this pasuk here regarding kamle b'derabim mineh, that we do not make a distinction between derech aliyah and derech yiride for kamle b'derabim mineh, the same thing is also regarding the subject that we're speaking about here. When it comes to a person that wants to redeem himself by paying money and save himself from the chiyav misa, there's no distinction how he killed another person, whether he killed him derech aliyah or killed him derech yiride. Either way, you cannot redeem yourself with money. Just like regarding kamle b'derabim mineh, we don't make that distinction. Regarding this halacha, that one cannot redeem himself with money and pater himself from misa, we also learn from here that we do not make that distinction. So Rava's question is, we don't need two psukim to teach me this.
But we do make a distinction between sheigig and mezid.
Regarding what? Regarding kamle b'derabim mineh? Not according to Chizkiah. No, and the Gemara actually before said that everybody agrees to Chizkiah, even though there's other places where it could be other people. But over here, the Gemara before said that everybody agrees to what Chizkiah says. Ella, so therefore the Gemara comes back again to these two psukim and gives a different shot. Again, we're talking about the two psukim, Leisikhu Kaifer, and the pasuk of Kol Cherem, that when there's a Cherem, Lo Yipada, that a person cannot redeem himself with money when he's Chayiv Misa. So Ella, Rami Bachame, so therefore Rami Bachame says, Itzterich, I need these two psukim for the following reason. So, I would think to say, Hanemili, when do I say this halacha? That so Rami Bacham is actually taking these two psukim, and he's so again. Let me clarify this one more time. Rami Bacham is actually coming to explain the pasuk of Lo Yiyeh Asain. Why do I need the pasuk of Lo Yiyeh Asain to teach me that you only the halacha of Kamle B'derab Minei if I have a second pasuk of Lo Yiyeh Cherem to tell me that you don't take any payment in a case when a person's Chayiv Misa. So he's focusing over here on explaining what do I need two psukim for Kamle B'derabimnei. So Rami Bacham explains, Itzterich. I need these two psukim as follows. Sol kedai tochamine, because I would think to say, Ha nemili. When do I say the halacha of Kamle B'derabimnei? Heiche de sima es einoi ve'hargoi ba. If you went and blinded a person, and through this you also killed him. The pain that happened through this, he ended up dying. In such a case, because with this one action that you did, when you took away his eyesight, that itself caused him to die, then I say that you only get one punishment for this and not two different punishments, because it's one thing that you did here that caused that he should die. Aval heicha desima es einoi v'hargai b'davar acher. But if it was a case where you went and you blinded him, and besides that you did something else to him which ended up killing him, he didn't die because you blinded him, but you blinded him, and then besides that you hurt him in another way that ended up killing him. So maybe in such a case I would say that you do have to pay separately than the Chayiv Misa. You did two different things. One thing, you blinded him. When you blind another person, you have to pay for that, for all the different modes of payment that there are, which means money. But then besides that, you also would be Chayiv Misa. So maybe you can make a distinction between what happened, the two cases over here. And that's why you need two psukim. The pasuk of Lo Yiyeh Asain would only come to tell me in a case where there was one makkah, you blinded him, and that itself also killed him. So V'lo Yiyeh Asain is the source to tell me that in that case I say Kamle B'derab Minei. But then I need another pasuk to come and teach me, and I think this is going back actually to of the pasuk of V'lo Sikhu Kaifer. The pasuk that it says V'lo Sikhu Kaifer is also coming to teach me regarding Kamle B'derab Minei that a person does not have to pay when he's Chayiv Misa, even if the payment and the Chayiv Misa did not happen together at the same time. He blinded him, that's one thing, and then he also did something else and he killed him. Even there I also say Kamle B'derab Minei. This is Rashi's pshat in the Gemara. Other Rishonim have different pshatim where there's various pshatim with this Gemara, but again, the point is, according to Rashi, this teretz of Rami Bar Chama is going back to the subject of Kamle B'derab Minei, and it's explaining what we do with the pasuk of V'lo Yiyeh Asain and the pasuk of V'lo Sikhu Kaifer. And once we understand that both of those psukim are talking about Kamle B'derab Minei, so then the third pasuk that the Gemara quoted before, which is Lo Yiyeh Cherem, is talking about the fact that we don't allow a person to redeem himself from the Chayiv Misa. So on this answer, Rava asks as well, this idea that we do not make a distinction in why a person is Chayiv Misa and Mamay, whether it's coming from one thing he did or from two things he did, we learned this from another thing that Chizkiya said. The Tana de Chizkiya said, Ayin tachas ayin. When the Torah says an eye for an eye, what does this mean? V'loi ayin v'nefesh tachas ayin. We learn from here, but not an eye and the soul of the person for an eye. What is the simple pshat of what he's saying? What he's saying is, how do we know that when the Torah writes ayin tachas ayin, what this means is that it's only paying money and not literally an eye for an eye? The answer is because if you go and want to knock out this person's eye because you knocked out someone else's eye, he might end up dying because of this. And therefore, ayin vin nefesh tachas ayin, that we can't do. So you can't do ayin tachas ayin because it may bring to actually be ayin vin nefesh tachas ayin. So therefore we know that the Torah meant only payment. But from this itself we also learn out that if you knocked out someone else's eye, there's only one thing. Only ayin tachas ayin. The Torah does not want that you should be doing two things, that because of what you did, you should pay in two ways, with your ayin and with your nefesh. So from here as well, we learn out that if you knock out someone's eye and he died, so then you're only going to be chayiv one thing, misa, and not two things. Because that itself you see also in this pasuk, that when you are chayiv and einish what you did to your friend, it's only one thing, not two. So this idea that you chayiv only once, I learn out over here from what Chizkiah said. So therefore the pasuk of Allah yiyah asain would teach me that if you knock out someone's eye, and then besides that you did something else that killed him, so you'd be chayiv only once to pay. So you don't need the pasuk. The question still remains: what do you need the pasuk of Eloi Sichu Kaifer to teach me this idea? I see already here from Tana de Bechizkiah that taught us this halacha of Eloi Ayin v'Nefesh Tachas Ayin. Elam Ravashi. So therefore Ravashi has another pshat. It's the I need the pasuk of Eloi Kaifer and Eloi Asan. I need it as follows: Sol kedai tachamine. I would think to say, Ho yol v'chidish u'shechid she'teire b'knas. That since the Torah was machadish, that you pay a knas, so therefore I would say, even if it's true that usually when you chayiv misa you don't pay, but by knas it's different. The knas is a chiddush that the Torah said, that the Rashi says, what's knas? Knas is not a regular payment. Knas is a gzeiras melech. The Eibusher decreed that you should pay this. So if knas is a penalty that the Eibusher decrees to pay, afagav the mikdal mishalim, even if you're getting killed, you should still have to pay. Kamash Malan, that's why I need an extra pasuk here to say that you do not pay. So again, this comes to explain, what do I need the two psukim for? One pasuk is V'lo yiyah asain, the source of Kamle with the Rabbi Mineh, and the second pasuk, V'lo yisichu kaifer, is coming to teach me that even in a case of knas, you don't pay if you chayiv misa. Frag the Gemara, but we had before, Ol Rabbi Da'ama. Rabbi before said in the Gemara, Chidishu shechit shetayre b'knas, that because knas is actually a chiddush, that the Torah says you pay, so afagav the mikdal mishalim. And Rabbi says that the halacha by knas is that taka you do pay the knas, even when you chayiv misa. So hai kol cheirem mai avidle. So if so, the pasuk of Eloi Sikhu Kaifer is not coming to teach me this. So what are you going to learn out from the pasuk of kol cheirem? You have over here extra pasuk because of Eloi Sikhu Kaifer is not teaching me this. So then Eloi Sikhu Kaifer is just teaching me that a person can't redeem himself with money when he's chayiv misa. So if so, the knas that doesn't need this pasuk. So then we have an extra pasuk like sikhu chayrim. What are we learning out from here? So the Gemara answers, Savalo ketana kame the Rab Chananya ben Akavya. What Rabba holds, what Rabba holds is like the first Tana that was brought before, that was arguing with Rab Chananya ben Akavya. This goes back to what we learned at the end of the previous Amud. The whole Gemara here is based on the opinion of Rab Chananya ben Akavya. But before that, the Gemara brought the Tanakama that says that this pasuk kol cheirem is not an extra pasuk. It's teaching me something completely different. That when someone is taken by the Bezdin to be executed, and someone says er koyalai, that I will give his value to hektish, so he has no value, and you don't have to give it to hektish. So we learn out from that pasuk a completely different thing. So therefore, that's not considered to be an extra pasuk.
You can't redeem it, huh?
Okay. Let's continue. Zok the Gemara, Zok the Mishnah, that is. Zok the Heilige Mishnah. Naira, Shenis Arsa, V'nis Garsha. Going back to the halachis of a Naira, that someone was mizana with her. So if she first was Nisarsa, she got married to someone, the first stage of marriage, Edison, and then she got divorced. And now someone came and violated her and was mizana with her. Rabbi Yosek Lili Aimis, Rabbi Yosek Lili says, Ein lo knas. At this stage, she gets no payment of knas anymore. Rabbi Kiva says, Yesh la knas. Even after there was an Edison and she was divorced, she still gets knas. V'knas alatzma. And at this point, the payment of the knas goes to her. Usually by a naira, whatever income, including knas, goes to the father. But over here, she gets the payment of the knas. Talk to Gemara, my time, Rabbi Yosef Glili. What's the source of what Rabbi Yosef Glili said? Amakra, because the pasuk says, Ashaloi oirasa. Ashaloi oirasa, the Torah clearly says that she gets the knas. What kind of a naira are we talking about? That a person went and had a relation with this girl, Ashaloi oirasa, which was not ever married before, in the Edison. Ha'irasa, but if she was married, ein la knas. So even though now she's divorced, but now there's no payment of knas anymore. Clear pasuk. Rabbi Kiva, how does Rabbi Kiva explain this pasuk? Ashaloi oirasa. What does Ashaloi oirasa mean? La avia. That if she was not oirasa, then the knas that she gets paid goes to the father. Oirasa. But if she's a naira that was already married and now she got divorced, la'atzma. There is knas, but now she gets the knas, not to the father. Frag the Gemara, if that's how you're darshaning this pasuk, when it says Hala Eirasa, we're not going to say that there's no knas here at all. It's just a question who gets the knas. So you should say the same thing regarding the other details that the pasuk says about the knas. So Elamata Naira, when it says in the pasuk that knas is only for a naira, v'loy begeres, and not a girl that's older and more mature, from 12 and a half and older. Hachanami say the same thing. The la'atzma say that in such a case the father does not get the knas, but she gets the knas. Or when the Torah says besula, that only a besula do you have to pay knas for. V'loy be'ula, not if she already had a relation with someone else from before. Hachanami say the same thing. The la'atzma, that in such a case she gets a knas herself. So we don't say that there. Ela legambri. Over there we say that if you're not a naira or if you're not a besula, you don't get at all the knas. So if so, hachanami here as well when the Torah says ashalay eirasa legambri. You should say that the Torah means to say that if she was already eirasa, she was already married, she doesn't get the knas at all. So why over here does Rabbi Akiva say that you still get the knas, but it doesn't go to the father, it goes to her? Amalach Rabbi Akiva will tell you, Hi loy eirasa. When the Torah says loy eirasa, this is not coming to teach me that she does not get the knas because she was not eirasa. These are extra words, and mibayele likadetanya. The Torah is writing it for what we learn out in the following brayse. Asher loy eirasa. When the Torah writes asher loy eirasa, prat lenaira shenis arsa v'nis garsha. This excludes a naira that was married and was divorced. Shein lo knas. She gets no knas. Divrei Rabbi Yossi Aglili. That's Rabbi Yossi Aglili's opinion. Rabbi Akiva says, Yesh lo knas, she does get knas, and not only that, in the Braisa here, Rabbi Akiva says, Uknasa la avia, the father gets the knas. So this is actually contradicting what Rabbi Akiva said in the Mishnah. Rabbi Akiva said in the Mishnah, she gets knas and it goes to herself. The Gemara is going to discuss this soon. And then Rabbi Akiva explains why he's saying so. V'hadin naisen, it's logical to say that there still is knas and the father gets the knas. Why? Hayil va'avia zakai b'kesef kedusha. We know that the father has the right to marry off his daughter, and the money that he would get for the kiddushin goes to the father. And va'avia zakai b'kesef knasa, and the father is also the one that gets the money for the knas. So therefore we compare the two. Ma kesef kiddusha, just like it is with the money of a kiddushin that a father gets. Afal pishin is arsav and is garsha liavia. Even if she was married and divorced, she's still a naira. The father still can marry her off and gets the money. Sa'af kesef knasa. The money payment for the knas is the same thing. Afal pishin is arsav and is garsha. Even if she's a naira that was married and was divorced, liavia, the father still gets that knas. So now Rabbi Akiva says, Im kain, if this is logical, that the father, there still is knas, and the father gets that knas, Im kain matamad leima ashaloya rasa. Why is the Torah writing these words, ashaloya rasa? The answer is mufna. It's extra words, lahakish loi, in order to compare from here to another case, to teach us certain halachas. V'ladun heimenu gzeir shava. And therefore we learn out the gzeir shava. What is that gzeir shava? Nemakan asher lo yerasa. The Torah here by a ma'anis writes the words asher lo yerasa. V'nem ala halon, and it says by a mefata, when a person persuaded a girl into a relationship. Over there the Torah also writes asher lo yerasa. So now we compare the two. Makan nun, just like over here it says that it's 50 coins that you have to pay. Afla halon nun. Over there as well you pay 50 kesa, 50. Mala alon shkolim, just like over there it's shkolim. Afkan shkolim. Over here as well it's shkolim. So the Torah wrote the extra words, Ashaloya Irasa, not to say that you potter from the Knas, Adarabah. It's just coming to create this Gzeir Shavah so you know how much exactly it is that you pay. Okay, this is Rabbi Akiva's opinion there. Frag the Gemara on Rabbi Akiva, my chazis. Now what do you see to teach the pasuk this way? The Asher Lo Yerasa Gzeir Shavah. The words Asher Lo Yerasa you consider to be extra, and therefore you use it as a Gzeir Shavah. So in that case, when she was Ayrasa, when she was married, you're not going to pater from Knas. But Ubesula, when it writes Besula, that you take literal. You don't use that for any Gzeir Shavah. Besula, you say, is L'ma'ute Be'ula. That excludes a girl that's a Be'ula that had already a relation before. How do you know to learn this way? Eime, maybe do it in the reverse. Maybe say Besula L'Gzeir Shavah. When the Torah wrote the word Besula, maybe that should not be taken literal. And the Torah is writing Besula here by Einis and by Mefata only for Gzeir Shavah. And Vasher Lo Yerasa, and then when the Torah writes Vasher Lo Yerasa, maybe that's not extra for Gzeir Shavah. Maybe that should be taken literally. And I should say Prat Lo Yeras L'Naira Shenis Arsav and His Garsha, that excludes a Naira that was married and divorced, that over there she gets no Knas. So the Gemara answers, according to Rabbi Akiva, Mistavre, it's logical to say Asher lo irasa l'gzeir shava. That Asher lo irasa are the extra words we used for gzeir shava. Shaharei ani kaireba naira besula, because then I can apply what the pasuk is saying, literally naira besula, that knas is only for a naira and for a psula. So therefore, I want to keep those words naira and besula in its literal meaning. So I use lo irasa for gzeir shava. Says the Gemara, why would you do this? Adarabba, on the contrary. Say besula l'gzeir shava. Maybe the word besula is used for an extra word as gzeir shava, and I don't translate besula literally. Shaharei kaireba ashalei rasa. That's so then you'll be able to translate ashalei rasa literally, that over there, if she was already married before, then there's no knas. So the point of here is there's one word that we have to consider to be extra for gzeir shava, and one word that we take literal. How does you know how to do this? So the Gemara answers, Mistavre, it's logical to say that when it comes to a besula, that over there we're going to take it literally, because ha ishtani gufa. The difference between a besula and a ba'ula is that there's an actual change in her physical body. So therefore, that's something that I take literal and say that there's a change in her physical body, that she's going to be potter from knas. But vaha lo yishtani gufa. The difference between a girl that is still a besula, but she was just married before, and now she's divorced, there's no actual change in her physical body. So therefore, there's less reason to say that you would be potter to pay knas in this case. So therefore, ashalei rasa I do not take literal, and I just use those words for gzeir shava. But the word besula, that I take literal, and I say that since her body changed, it's logical to say that this the Torah meant literally that one that violates her will be potter from knas.
Had her body changed with 2 hairs or what?
No. She's a ba'ula. Besula versus a ba'ula. Rabbi Yosi Aglili. Now the question over here is, according to Rabbi Yosi Aglili, Rabbi Akiva has this gzeir shava. So according to Rabbi Yosi Aglili, where does he have where does he learn out this halacha from? That we learn in this gzeir shava to know the amount for the payment. Hi svara minole. Where does he learn it out from? Answers the Gemara. Nafkele, he learns it out midetanya from the Braisa. This was quoted in the Gemara before already. Kesef yishkel k'mayar abesulais. You give money like the money designated for the besulais. What is this mayar abesulais? Like the money designated for the besulais. Sheyehezeh k'mayar abesulais. That I compare over here, that you pay over here by a einus, just like by the mefate. And then I also say mayar abesulais kazeh, and what you pay there is like what you pay here. And the Gemara explained this before already. This refers both to the fact that you pay 50 and that you have to pay shkolim. So therefore, he learns it out from here, so he does not need the gzeir shava that we said before. But now the Gemara comes back to the contradiction that we had in the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. Kashir, the Rabbi Akiva. We have a clear contradiction of Rabbi Akiva's opinion. In the Mishnah, it said that you pay the knas, and who gets the knas? She gets it. Once she was married once before, she gets the knas. In the Braisa, it said that the father gets the knas. Answers the Gemara, yes, it's a contradiction. Trei tanoi v'aliba de Rabbi Akiva. These are 2 tanoim in the Mishnah and the Braisa that are arguing what Rabbi Akiva's opinion is. So now the Gemara will address this. Bishleim Rabbi Akiva de masnisen. So we understand Rabbi Akiva's opinion in the Mishnah that says that yes, there's a payment of knas, but who gets that payment? She does. So we can understand why this Tana says so. Because lo asya gzeir shava, the gzeir shava that we said before, the Torah wrote ashaloi oirasa, that knas is only if she was not married before. So what did Rabbi Akiva do? Rabbi Akiva said, no, those words should not be taken literal. We're using it for gzeir shava. But nevertheless, a gzeir shava will not come umafkele lekra mipashte legamri, to uproot the pasuk from its literal pshat completely. The pasuk is coming to teach me something, that there is some difference in the payment of the knas if she was married before or not married before. So therefore, this Tana explains, what is it teaching me? Yes, there's knas, but it's not the same. Usually the father gets it, and over here, she gets it. So that we understand. Elul Rabbi Akiva, however, according to Rabbi Akiva, the Braisa, in the Braisa, Asya gzeir shava mafke mepashte legamri, does the pasuk over here say, when it says ashalei rasa, so we have gzeir shava for this. That's what we're using these extra words. But does that completely uproot what the meaning of the pasuk is, and that there's no relevance for what these words are saying here altogether? Rav Nachman by Yitzchak. So Rav Nachman Yitzchak says, yeah, according to this Tana, we have to read the words of the pasuk a little bit differently. Kiribei, read the words ashaloi oirasa, not ashaloi oirasa, but ashaloi arusa. Read it as ashaloi arusa, which means she's not presently married to somebody. That's when you're exempt of knas. Not that she wasn't once married before. She's not presently married to somebody. Fragte Gemara, Arusa Baskilihi. That's what the pasuk has to say, that she's not presently married to someone. If you violate a girl, which is not a girl anymore, she's married already, so then there's a chiyuv skila. And in such a case, if there's a chiyuv skila, obviously there's no knas. If you chayiv skila, there's nothing to pay for. And says the Gemara, no, I still need a pasuk here to teach me that you don't pay the knas. Because I would think to say, similar svara that we had before in the Gemara, since this whole payment here is a chiddush, it's knas, it's a gzeira of the ebisha that you have to pay, even if you chayiv misa, skila, but maybe you should still have to pay the knas. That's what the Torah is teaching me, according to this opinion of Rabbi Akiva, ashaloi arusa, that when she's already married, you don't pay this knas. Fragte Gemara, Ole Rabbe da Omar, and according to Rabbe that we brought before, that said chiddush shechitcha Torah beknas, that the Torah says a chiddush that you pay knas afagav the mikdal mishalim, and therefore he says that even if you get killed, you still pay the knas. What are we going to say according to his opinion? So according to him, even if you're getting killed, you still pay the knas. So we're going to have to say, when Rabbi said what he said, it does not fit with what it says in the Braisa. What Rabbi said goes only according to the opinion of Rabbi Akiva in the Mishnah that said that the knas goes to the father. Tana Rabbanan, in a Braisa, we learned knasa lemi. The Braisa asks the question, who gets the knas when a girl gets paid the knas? So lavia. The first opinion is it goes to the father. V'yesh oimrim la'atzma. Others say no, it goes to the girl herself. So the question is, the Braisa doesn't spell out what kind of situation are we talking about here when it questions who gets the knas. Usually the father always gets the knas. There's no argument about this. So therefore the Gemara asks the question, la'atzma amai. Why should she get the knas? Rav Chisda says this Braisa is speaking about the case that we're speaking about here in the whole Gemara. It's speaking about a naira that was married once before and she got divorced. And then that's the argument there. Kamiflagi beplukte the Rabbi Akiva, the Masnisin, the Rabbi Akiva the Braisa. And the argument here is the same argument as we just had in the Rabbi Akiva of the Mishnah and Rabbi Akiva of the Braisa, that they argue that there is knas even after she was married before and got divorced. But the question is, who gets the payment of this knas, the father or the daughter herself? Okay.